welcome to tonight's broadcast. I'm your host, Dan, and tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about, what did I title this episode? Overcoming Deception. So, I just want to talk a little bit about state of the world, everything. Obviously, it's not good. There's a lot of people trying to convince themselves that things are going to turn around and everything's going to get better, but I think that there's false hopes out there. People are looking to false promises and false hopes. So, just a weird time. Like, we're just came out of elections this last year. We're in a new year, 2025. We just had elections, which was a whole strange thing in itself, of course. Trump getting reelected, and especially after it seeming like it was maybe making it seem like it was impossible for him to get reelected, there's a lot of psyops going on around all of this politics and stuff. I mean, really, psyops infiltrate everything, every aspect of the media, and that includes internet and independent media now because, everything's online. Everybody's online on their phones, on YouTube, on everything like that. So everything's just migrated there now, and we've got the new guard, new personalities. But there's a lot of disinfo. As always. But I think for me, another weird thing was this, of course, the Antarctica final experiment thing that took place this last December, I believe. And that was where basically some people, this pastor, took these people, these flat earthers and these globe earther people to Antarctica, supposedly. Took them there, and they all witnessed together and videotaped like 24-hour sun, 360-degree rotation overhead in Antarctica, which, of course, they would say is impossible on flat Earth, because if the flat Earth is like, the Gleason's map portrays like this, then you would be like, okay, so you would be like out here instead of way in there. And the sun, you can't really see my mouse cursor, I don't think. So, can't really show you that way. I need to find an app or something I can get my mouse to light up with. But anyways, the claim is that, if this is the most accurate, let's say, flat Earth model that flat earthers have, then you couldn't have a 24-hour sun on the outside of it because the sun's not going to go behind you. If you've studied this at all, then you know what I'm talking about here. And so, they say that it's, You can't have a 24-hour sun in Antarctica on a flat Earth, on this map at least, is what they're saying. So, you know, when I first saw that, the people down there in Antarctica, when I first saw the video, and they were claiming that they all saw the 24-hour sun. They're like, "Yep, guys, hey, it was real. We were wrong." You know, and now basically we've got, beyond that, we've got like at least four, I think, defecting flat earther people, which, you know, it is odd, very odd that all this is kind of happening just all at once. Like, it's been like 10 years for a lot of these people, and heavily supporting this, heavily skeptical about the space propaganda and the fake space stuff that's been put out by the government and private agencies and everything. And now all of a sudden, just like this one thing at Antarctica, which has been one of the biggest questions that's been, you know, like there for a long time. Like, hey, if it's a globe Earth, then we should be able to see 24-hour sun in Antarctica. So, like, why is there no video of 24-hour sun, or no credible video? And this has been said for years, you know, like almost a decade, and there were some videos I had seen that come out, and they were like, but they were looped footage. I think it was shown that they were looped footage because, like, the clouds at the end, if you watched the main video, I remember it came out in like 2018 or something like that. There was a video that came out claiming to be 24-hour Antarctic sun, but if you watched the beginning of the video, there was a certain cloud formation, and then, like, if you went to the end of the video after 360, it was like showed the same cloud formation again. That was at the beginning of the video, so it's just a loop. So that was kind of like thrown out, and it wasn't really defended heavily by the mainstream media. That particular video, I can't remember the name of it. It's I don't know if I can look it up real quick. But Anthony Powell, this might be it. Or this might have been, I think there's a bunch of new ones that maybe have come out since, this was 9 years ago. I'm not sure if this is the same one that I was just talking about or not. This actually looks somewhat different, but the point I'm trying to make is that if this were really true, you would see a lot more unedited type of footage coming out. Yeah, see, this is really hard to, like, this almost looks fake right here. Like, the sun rays, the rays from the sun here in this video are not even changing at all. Like, it almost looks like a paste on, like a, what do you call it, Microsoft Paint or something like that, like pasted on like a sun. Of course, then here's a bunch of clouds. Okay. And again, it's just, I don't know. Does the sun's rays always just stay the same on a camera lens, even when the camera lens is moving around? That doesn't seem to make sense. Yeah, yeah, like that looks real. Like the glow's changing slightly, and I don't know. Anyways, that wasn't the one I was just talking about originally. There was another one that came out. That was there was something up with the clouds in it. Okay, so this is new, 3 weeks ago. But something interesting I was reading today, somewhat related, and maybe this should be the more of the point. I think it was in Proverbs. It's Proverbs 18:4 or something like that, I think. Let me just get off this video. Just look up that. Yeah, this is close to what I was looking for. The word, okay, this is an interesting one. I'm going to read a few proverbs here, but the words of the mouth are deep waters, but the fountain of wisdom is a rushing stream. I was like looking this up. Like, what does this mean? Like, is this, sometimes I don't know whether something's supposed to be positive or negative. This sounded negative, but I wasn't sure. But the idea is like, you know, people can sound intelligent and we can use a lot of words. I even try to, sometimes I feel like I want to do that to sound more authoritative or, you know, something like that, like people talk about, but I don't really care about that too much. But I do want to be reasonable and logical and all that. But according to the scriptures, though, so the word of the mouth are deep waters, but the fountain of wisdom is a rushing stream. Like the idea is like a rushing stream is, it's clear and refreshing, as opposed to like, you know, something that's very deep and you can't. It's like really unaccessible, maybe. And it's important to think about too, like, you know, you know, when God gives you His truth, it is, you know, He makes the truth. He when He gives wisdom, He makes the truth accessible, even for, you know, the simple. He gives wisdom to the simple, even. But that wasn't it. The proverb I was looking for before that, just go, it was in the previous chapter, because it says, yeah, here we go. A discerning person keeps wisdom in view, but a fool's eyes wander to the ends of the earth. So, you know, think about that. A fool's eyes wander to the ends of the earth, but if a discerning person, now this is NIV, I think the KJV says, wisdom is before him or in front of him that has understanding. The eyes of a fool are in the ends of the earth. So the idea is like the fool is like looking towards something that's way far away, way outside of his realm, and outside of his, you know, quote unquote sphere. But him that has understanding, wisdom is in front of him. So Like, we're not going to find wisdom. I mean, I don't want to use this. I'm not using this Bible verse to say that we shouldn't, question things, especially like, what's going on with the earth right now. But at the same time, we can't really know. These are things that are beyond us. And I think that God has purpose that we shouldn't know. We shouldn't know anything beyond what we can know. And that's the whole idea, I think, is that, your understanding, if you have understanding, then the wisdom to apply it is, if there's any application to wisdom, it's going to be right in front of you and not something that's like outside of, like, you don't need wisdom to deal with something that's not something that you even have to deal with. Hopefully that makes sense. But I think that we, like Job says, we cannot know who are we, who are we to know all the intricacies and the ins and outs of the entire world. And it's really a kind of a pompous, I don't know what the word is, a pompous type of attitude anyways to have, that like, that we know science has proven XYZ, and we know, all of this, that mankind has, come to a point where we, got it all. I don't know, but I think that deception hasn't, that the deceptions haven't grown stronger over centuries. I think that's more likely the case, and I think that this whole, like, quote unquote flat Earth awakening, if you want to call it that, I don't even like to attach like those words like movement or awakening stuff to it, because it kind of makes it like this man-centered awakening, as opposed to something that that God has kind of exposed. And there was a few people I know, like, for me, I got into the flat Earth thing. Let me go back to that. I don't know if this will. There we go. I got into the flat Earth thing back in like around 20, I think it was around the end of 2011 or around the beginning of 2012, which I'm pretty sure is around when, like, most of all the flat Earth people, basically once videos started popping up on YouTube about it, I started getting them in my feed, because I was already looking into conspiracy stuff like 9/11 and what else? 9/11, I think Sandy, the school thing, might have happened in 2012 as well. But people, I know for sure, I think Rory Cooper, who back then was like called My Perspective, and then now his YouTube channel is called You Think, like the letter U, Think. But I think he was making videos back then, and then another guy named J. Henning Kalagia, which maybe I can just go to these people's pages. Yeah. This guy, J. Henning Kalagia, he's been doing flat Earth videos around since like let me see his oldest videos here. 12 years ago. Ocean's floor. Hang on. Okay, yeah. So 12 years ago, he's got some videos about flat Earth here. And then this video, Flat Earth 2013. I watched that too. So yeah, so that was really old. And then I think also like Eric Dubay and this other guy, Math Powerland, which these guys, some of these guys see, I don't know. There's a lot of opportunity. We have to be careful because there's a lot of opportunists who will, and this is something I was, looking into. I was researching a little bit, or just kind of trying to work through with ChatGPT earlier, like how, people can, you've got these novelty seekers. So like some people don't really care about the truth; they just like the attention. And so like Flat Earth gives them a platform, and they just milk it for fame, money, influence. But now that we've got people defecting out of it, and so be it. I think that they're definitely trying to. So the disinfo, the problem we've got going on now is that we've got. I'm just gonna read some of these patterns here, but let me just read this here because this is a little. This kind of gets to it somewhat, but the deception never stops. It just evolves to fit the situation. The moment real truth gains traction, controlled opposition creeps in to muddy the waters. Over the last 10 years, the Flat Earth discussion has gone from serious investigation to a mixed bag of genuine truth seekers, opportunists, disinfo agents, and outright mockery. Some patterns are clear. The rise of controlled figures and gatekeepers. Every movement that challenges the system gets infiltrated. It's not a coincidence that some of the biggest names in Flat Earth over the years have created drama and division instead of focusing on truth, pushed bizarre or ridiculous claims, like infinite planes, to make the movement look stupid, suddenly converted back to the globe right when the movement was growing the most. These types of figures often rise fast, get tons of exposure, and then leave confusion in their wake. The classic COINTELPRO style disruption. The novelty seekers and cult personalities. Some people never cared about the truth, they just loved the attention. Flat Earth gave them a platform, and they milked it for fame, money, or influence. When the movement was fresh and growing, they played along. When the pushback became too strong, or a better opportunity came along, they jumped ship. Some people use their influence to steer people in circles, pushing endless debates instead of real investigation. It's not unique to Flat Earth, it happens in every truth movement. The system allows some influencers to get big so they can later discredit the whole thing. The constant evolution of disinformation. The globe deception doesn't stay static, it adapts. As people debunk NASA, they come up with new scientific justifications. When Flat Earthers poke holes in mainstream explanations, the gatekeepers introduce disinfo distractions to waste time. For example, instead of focusing on why NASA lies, they push fantastical theories to make Flat Earth look crazy. Instead of proving the globe, they create endless strawman arguments to drain energy. When serious research gets close to something big, they flood the space with nonsense to bury it. The never-ending deception. The enemy is relentless. If a movement is dangerous to the system, they don't just ignore it, they actively work to corrupt it. That's why Flat Earth has been so heavily infiltrated. The real question isn't whether the Earth is flat or not. It's about controlling perception and keeping people from questioning the deeper deception. At the end of the day, truth stands on its own. If they have to resort to this much manipulation, it proves they're hiding something massive. And this is the thing, is that we've all been deceived. We've all accepting that we've been grown into a system in a world that is full of deception, where things are not as they seem or as they're like presented on the surface by man. It's something that you have to deal with. But I never thought that flat Earth would, necessarily grow to the amount that it did. I guess the mainstream level that it did. But again, the thing is that just because it got to a mainstream level doesn't mean that people are really understanding it for what it is. And at the end of the day, flat Earth is not salvation. I've heard a lot of people say that like they believed in that, kind of like they got saved or something like that by flat Earth, and like, or they found God. They found God because of flat Earth. And it's like, the thing is that sorry, my brain goes blank when I hear baby crying. The flat Earth, what was I saying? Anyway, how many times can I say flat Earth in one video? Anyways, it is at the end of the day, I think everyone just, what I came down to is like when I saw that Antarctic sun thing, and first I was like, well, maybe they did see a 24-hour sun. What does that mean? Is it a globe? Like, for a second I did have to kind of like question myself, and someone will say, I'm just coping now. Yeah, you were doing the right thing. You should have been questioning it. But I don't know. There's all the stuff that I learned over the last 10 years, and it's not going to be that easy to, conclusively, to end the globe, or to end the flat Earth or whatever. At least, I guess for the people who are just in it for whatever reasons, they didn't care about the truth necessarily. It might be that easy for them, but those of us who are waiting who don't have an agenda, I guess, like we're still waiting. We're watching, we're waiting, and we're looking up. But flat Earth is not salvation. Like, Christ is salvation. God is Christ. Christ is God. So to know him is salvation. Because he grants salvation by his grace and by his cross, because he laid down his life. So if you don't see that, if you don't see what Jesus did, who Jesus is, and what he has done as greater than the whole earth, and greater than even necessarily like knowing every detail, having to explain every detail, then you're not there yet. But we don't have to explain every little detail. That's a trap. We don't have to personally explain every mechanism of reality. Just because we can't explain every mechanism of reality doesn't mean that our whole perspective is wrong. But our senses are given to us by God, and we experience reality as it is. So the sun moves above us, the ground beneath us is stable, and water always seeks level. We don't feel a spin. We don't see a curve. And the horizon always rises to eye level. So those are some of the basics, that took me a while to see, but that's how we live life. And so, you know, we don't need to explain everything else. There's more important things. But, you know, on the opposite side, there's one last thing I'll just say on this flat earth thing, and I'll move on. Meanwhile, the scientific explanations we're given rely on complex equations the average person can't verify, CGI and artist renderings instead of real images, and institutional trust rather than personal experience. We have to trust them instead of our own eyes and senses. But at the end of the day, truth isn't determined by consensus, math formulas, or authority figures. It's determined by reality itself. So, you know, our ability to observe, test, and experience that reality is, at least in the context of trying to figure out what the earth is, that's what matters most. So, okay, I'm going to move on from that. For now. What else was I going to talk about? Yeah, Christ alone. So, and that's something that's really bothered me too. Like, I guess I'll just go ahead and like, I've been seeing a lot of people, like, I know a lot of people see this whole flat earth thing. Like, I know most, like, the common people know about this stuff, even if they don't talk about it. You know, they don't talk about it at work or in public or necessarily even around a lot of people because they don't know how it's going to be received. You know, they don't want to be the crazy. They don't want to be arguing or something like that. But there's a lot of people who are clued into this, but they're, like I said, they're not really born again, I don't believe. And it might be that they are still one of God's people ultimately, but they're just not, you know, they're not, they might be in tune to like deceptions, like, you know, this deception, for instance, but they're not in tune to the religious deceptions that are going on. Because, like, for instance, you know, the flat earth movement, like, there are religious people who are picking up on the flat earth thing. And like, I've seen people post comments being like, does anybody know any churches that teach biblical cosmology? You know, it's like, man, people, like, what, I don't know, why do you need to church? I mean, I don't know. Like the churches that supposedly have teached it, you know, they just get into, they preach a whole sermon on just that. You know, just like talking about how NASA lies and all that. And that the problem is that gets really draining. There's no life really in it. It's just like, hey, we come out of this deception, but you know, what do we do now? Well, you know, fight against the system, like you can, but you know, what was that Proverbs again? Well, here's a good one. Better is a dry morsel and quietness therewith than a house full of sacrifices with strife. So, like, if you can just be quiet and have, you know, it's better to have quiet than a house full of sacrifices with strife. And the sacrifice, I think, is, you know, the idea of like animals, meat, but meat with strife, no good. And the finding pot is for silver, and the furnace for gold. The Lord trieth the hearts. So, you know, the current state of things is like you know, is a refining. There's things going on that are refining, But see, some people may appear to be, on top, in line with the truth, but haven't really, the Lord tries the hearts. Maybe they could be completely opposed to the Lord. They could be flat earth, this or that. Actually, I've seen it a lot recently. There's a few people I've seen on YouTube, nothing new. And, they think that Christ is somehow, they're using the Bible to control people. And that's the one thing I've heard, people, well, you haven't woken up fully because, the Bible, that you don't realize that there's a system of control. And it's like, well, no, you don't understand. Like, the Bible, like, is the only thing, like, the words that God gave us is the only thing that we have to wake us up, really. Wake us up through his Spirit to understand the word, to know it, but give us wisdom. But that's all we have. So, I mean, you take this away and we don't have anything. You've got your supposed, like, inner strength or whatever. Like, yeah, good luck with that. Like, it's not gonna get you very far at all. So we got to be patient. We got to be patient. And we got to be wise, and we've got to be careful not to weaponize the truth against people or against itself. So, hey, if I'm going to be a dry morsel, I'd rather be a dry morsel than full heavy meat with strife, you could say. But anyways, this is all in God's design. But God is calling his people ultimately through all of this, and that's that's the thing to keep in mind and remember here. Like, it's not just about waking up to the evil realities of this world, because there's no end to that. You can learn all about occult symbology and numerology and the writings of the satanic. You can learn the satanic doctrines of Aleister Crowley and all these other people, who, a lot of people are actually, consuming that stuff, heavily, to try and find try and catch them or whatever in their own thing. But it kind of, that can consume you in itself. And if there's no light, if there's no light there in that, and only darkness and blasphemy or whatever, then it doesn't do you any good to be learning their doctrines, because it just doesn't give you any wisdom. You might it might help you if you're looking to ascend the ranks of some secret society or something. Maybe then that might be your thing, but otherwise, just leave it alone. Let it rot and die. So, even a fool, when he holds his peace, is counted wise. He that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. So, what I was trying to get at earlier, though, is that there's false Christs. I guess one thing that I'm going to go call it out today um, is this Chosen, the show called The Chosen. Um, it's like a TV show, uh, online show, whatever. Created by some guy. I think he's. I don't need to. I don't need to divulge his whole thing, or whatever, because I'm just gonna warn people against that show, because I just keep hearing more and more people who, are professing Christians. I'm not saying that if you watch that show or whatever that you're damned or anything, but I will say if you're watching that show and you're not seeing something seriously wrong with it, then you need to turn that show off and learn about the real Jesus, because the character that is portraying Jesus, the character that they're portraying as Jesus is it's just completely antithetical to Jesus. Okay, they're portraying Jesus as some guy who is like just another man who he doesn't even know like what's going to happen next. He's just he doesn't know what he's going to say. He's like asking Matthew like, hey, I was thinking this line for the Sermon on the Mount. What do you think? And, just really cheesy, honestly. Really, it's kind of cringe. I'm going to call it cringe because it is. It makes me cringe. The stuff that they are trying to portray, Jesus and the disciples, is absolutely stupid. It's just garbage. And that's the nicest way I can put it. So, if you're absolutely loving it, like, I'm sorry, but I mean, I'm not sorry for saying it. It's just bad. You need to learn. If you think that's Jesus, then you're totally mistaken. You need to start from square one, because that's not what Jesus is like. Jesus is not portrayed as somebody who doesn't know what's going to happen next, but he's portrayed as knowing everything that's going to happen next in the Bible. He is God in the flesh. And so, he's way above us. Some people think, I guess, for some reason that Jesus, like part of him, some people think that maybe part of him earning salvation, or him being like, the high priest, like it says, like he would be tempted or tested in every way, yet without sin, like us. Some people think that means that he had to be like ignorant, like us. Like it was like a test or something, that he had to be ignorant and overcome in spite of his ignorance, I guess. Or like overcome with limited access to the knowledge that God has. But I would argue that's a distortion as well, because he consistently shows that has all knowledge, and he consistently when he walked this earth, the disciples and the people who followed him did not understand him. So they didn't understand him for most of the time that he walked the earth. They didn't understand a lot of the stuff that he was teaching. They didn't understand really the full meaning of it. And people think that when they read the same things that he said here, they think that they are going to understand it because it's already been done. But Yeah, I'm just going to read this. Gratification. I'm going to read it in the they had a Tyndale Bible. I kind of would read a Tyndale or Geneva, I guess. I'll do Geneva. Okay. Okay, yeah. See, Geneva has titles to the chapters. That's always interesting. It's almost like a Bible study. So this is the 1599 Geneva GNV translation, GNV. Christ proves that the Pharisees are the evil shepherds. And see, we have Pharisees today. Many, many Pharisees. Pharisaic religion today. And he proves that by many reasons that himself is the good shepherd, and thereof dissension arises. They take up stones and go about to take him, but he escapes. Verily, truly, truly, I say to you that he that entereth not in by the door into the sheepfold, but climbeth up another way, he's a thief and a robber. But he that goeth in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the porter openeth, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calls to his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has sent forth his own sheep, he goeth before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. And they will not follow a stranger, but they flee from him, for they know not the voice of strangers. This parable spoke Jesus unto them, but they understood not what things they were which he spoke to them. Then Jesus said to them again, Truly I say to you, I am that door of the sheep. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am that door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and go out and find pasture. The thief cometh not, but for to steal, and to kill, and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and have it in abundance. I am that good shepherd giveth his life for his sheep. But an hireling, and he which is not the shepherd, neither the sheep are his own, sees the wolf coming, and he leaves the sheep, and runs, and the wolf catches them, and scatters the sheep. So the hireling flees because he's a hireling, and cares not for the sheep. I am that good shepherd, and know mine, and am known of mine. As the Father knows me, so know I the Father, and I lay down my life for my sheep. Other sheep I have also, which are not of this fold, them also must I bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one sheepfold and one shepherd. For this reason does my Father love me, because I lay down my life, that I might take it again. No man takes it from me, I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. This commandment have I received of my Father. Then there was a dissension again among the Jews for these saying. Many of them said, He hath a devil, and is mad. Why you hear him? Others said, These are not the words of him that has a devil. Can the devil open the eyes of the blind? And it was at Jerusalem the feast of the dedication, and it was winter. And Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. Then came the Jews round about him and said to him, How long do you make us to doubt? If you be the Christ, tell us plainly. Jesus answered them, I told you, and you believe not. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. But you believe not, for you're not of my sheep, as I said to you. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any pluck them out of my hand. My Father which gave them to me is greater than all, and none is able to take them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one. Then the Jews again took up stones to stone him. Jesus answered them, Many good works have I showed you from my Father. For which of these works do you stone me? The Jews answered him, saying, For the good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy, that thou, being a man, makes yourself God. So that's just it. Jesus is God in the flesh. Jesus answered them, Is it not written in your law, I said ye are gods? If he called them gods unto whom the word of God was given, and the scripture cannot be broken, say ye of him whom the Father hath set apart and sent into the world, You blaspheme because I said I am the Son of God? If I do not the works of my Father, believe me not. But if I do, then though you believe me not, yet believe the works, that you may know and believe that the Father is in me and I in him. Like he's saying, almost like right here, he's almost saying like, don't just take my word for it, but or if you can't just take my word for it, like look and see, and then that way you can take my word for it. But like Jesus said, no, a wicked generation seeks for a sign, but no sign will be given to it except for the sign of Jonah. For just as Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights, so shall the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth. Right? Let's look that up. Oops. So people are looking at all kinds of signs today, and they may, scarily enough, you may get your sign, but and that's not to say that Jesus, that God doesn't. He does. He has every ability to make us. Just what am I trying to say? He has every ability and to use any tool as disposal, but it's not just about proving he exists, because there's already proof enough. The works of creation itself is proof enough that he exists. But who he is, the sign of Jonah shows who he is, what his character is. Like he said, he's the shepherd who lays down his life for the sheep. So, like, if we wanted to know God, then we would, and we were of God, then we would go to Jesus and to learn from him. So it says here in AI, it just says, I gotta go here shortly, but so the sign of Jonah refers to Jesus' comparison of his death and resurrection to the story of the prophet Jonah, who spent 3 days in the belly of the great fish. This sign symbolizes Jesus' own burial and resurrection, emphasizing themes of repentance and God's mercy. So, yeah. So just leave it at that tonight, because probably said enough. Hey, Gabriel. See you in the chat. I'm going to read this real quick. I'll play a little bit of music. So he says the sun moves. The sun is said to move based on what Scripture says in the book of Joshua. Yeah. So in the book of Joshua, we remember that Joshua said when he was battling against the Philistines, like a precursor to the Philistines. Maybe I should look that up. Let's go. Joshua's long day. Oh, that'll get you all kinds of weird websites, but let's just go to the Bible part. You know, we don't need the extra biblical evidence. No. We just need to believe that what it says was true. Joshua 10:12. Do the GNV again. Okay, so the context is 5 kings. Oh, that's right. Yes. So, okay, that's good context. So 5 kings make war against Gibeon, who Joshua discomfiteth. What does that mean? Always look up a word when you don't know it. Discomfiteth. Discomfiteth means to feel confused, embarrassed, or upset. Often due to a frustrating situation or question. It can also imply thwarting someone's plans or defeating them in a more general sense. Okay. So the 5 kings were discomfited by Joshua. It means they were confused, embarrassed, upset, or they were just defeated. Their plans were thwarted by Joshua. The Lord rained hailstones and slew many. The sun standed still at Joshua's prayer. The 5 kings are hanged. Many more cities and kings are destroyed. So when Adonai Zedek, and you could actually look up all these words too. Adonai Zedek was, Adonai I know means as a type of way of saying Lord. Zedek, Hebrew meaning righteousness or justice, kind of like Melchizedek. But apparently this guy was not righteous or something. When Adonai Zedek, king of Jerusalem, had heard how Joshua had taken Ai and had destroyed it, for as he had done to Jericho and to the king thereof, so he had done to Ai and to the king thereof, and how the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were among them. Then they feared exceedingly, because Gibeon was a great city, as one of the royal cities, for it was greater than Ai, and all the men thereof were mighty. Wherefore Adonai Zedek, king of Jerusalem, sent unto Hoham, king of Hebron, and unto Piram, king of Jarmuth, and unto Japhia, king of Lachish, and unto Debir, king of Eglon, saying, Come up unto me, and help me, that we may smite Gibeon, for they have made peace with Joshua and with the children of Israel. Therefore the 5 kings of the Amorites, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon, gathered themselves together and went up, they with all their hosts, and besieged Gibeon and made war against it. And the men of Gibeon said unto Joshua, even unto the host of Gilgal, saying, withdraw not thine hand from thy servants. Come up to us quickly, and save us, and help us. For all the kings of the Amorites which dwell in the mountains are gathered together against us. Let me just stop there for a sec, because I've had this feeling like, I shouldn't say I have a feeling, but this intuition, if you want to call it whatever. Because if we're thinking of Joshua as like this type of Christ, which he bears the same name, Joshua, that we translate up, in modern we translate it into Jesus, but it's the same name, Joshua. If we look at it in that context, so we have these kings that surround, that ally up against this city that had allied with Joshua. Joshua had made an alliance with them. Granted, it was in deceit, if you read the whole story, but if you think about it, like it talks in like the Book of Revelation that the camp of the saints would be surrounded, that the Lord would save. I think that there's something to that with this, like a kind of what do you call it when something a small story can like take on a larger scale. You can look at it in light of a larger scale. So let me skip ahead a little bit here. So the Lord discomfited them before Israel, slew them with a great slaughter. As they ran before Israel, stones were hailed down. Then Joshua spoke to the Lord. So Joshua had already won the battle, and these people were already on the run. But Joshua was like, no, Joshua had this desire, obviously, to completely eradicate the Amorites here, because they were not hospitable. So Joshua spoke to the Lord in the day when the Lord gave the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stay thou in Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Aijalon. And the sun abode, and the moon stood still, until the people avenged themselves upon their enemies. So the sun abode in the midst of the heaven, and hasted not to go down for a whole day. And there was no day like that before it nor after it, that the Lord heard the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel. So then after Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, unto the camp to Gilgal. So it's kind of like a picture of the Lord returning in a way. Because we do know that there will be a day that's unlike any other, when the stars fall from heaven, the sun when the Lord will have vengeance on his enemies. He opened the mouth of the cave, brought the 5 kings out of the cave. He said to his men, set your feet upon the necks of these kings. Fear not, Nor be faint-hearted, but be strong and of good courage, for thus will the Lord do to all your enemies, against whom you fight. Then Joshua smote them and slew them and hanged them on 5 trees, and they hanged still upon the trees until the evening. And at the going down of the sun, Joshua gave commandment that they should take them down off the trees and cast them into the cave, wherein they had been hid, and they laid great stones upon the cave's mouth, which remain until this day. So, that's a picture of the end of the world, the great judgment, where the wicked will be no more. Okay, well, I've got to sign out. But thank you, Gabriel. I do appreciate your comments. They do help with encouragement, and also just it's always good to be reminded of the scriptures, because we can be short-sighted, and we need to constantly be reminded, and how everything connects, and so I thank you for that. So that's been a show for tonight. And I'm just gonna play for a little bit. Just playing chords. Good night. Till next time.